Good morning, friends. I'm sharing from this sacred garden and with Kuan Yin in the background because I want to speak about anger, conflict, and communication. And these topics all are supported with compassion in the background. And I just want to acknowledge that they're also supported by having a strong foundation of commitment to harmlessness, harmlessness for oneself, harmlessness for others. And so as we open up these topics and explore, just remember we're holding it in a context of ethics, a commitment to harmlessness, and compassion. So let me start with anger. There's two general tendencies that people have. One is to dump anger, lash out, and the other is to suppress anger, hold it in. And what we're working for in our meditation practice is the third option of being conscious, aware, and discerning with the arising of anger and the expression of anger. So when we are starting from the background experience of the tendency to lash out, then I want to offer you an image that I have. When I was working as the work nun at Amaravati Buddhist Monastery, we had this magnificent wood-burning stove that was designed so that I could open up the top of it and pour a whole garbage bin full of combustibles. And I'd save up the paper and the wood scraps and the dust and the turpentine and the paint thinner, and I'd fill it all up and I'd douse it, and then I'd throw a match in and it would just like rattle and shake. It'd turn red hot and it would like be this monster, but it wouldn't break. It held the heat. So when we are coming from the experience of just wanting to get it out of our systems, to lash out with words or to physically discharge it by kicking or hurting or harming, then bring to mind the image of this stove where we contain the energy, develop the capacity to hold it. And then as we hold it, that heat can then be transformed into something that was useful. So in my situation, being in that workshop in England, it was freezing cold, and so that heat heated up the entire building. It was fabulous. But if you come from the other tendency, like I have, which is of suppressing anger, of disavowing it, of feeling terrified to experience it, then we need to start with permission to feel it, to allow it, to let it be in our bodies, and to let it release in suitable, appropriate, non-harming ways, physically, verbally. So I remember once I was on retreat in Switzerland, and something had happened that had upset me a lot, and I was fuming, and it was really uncomfortable for me to sit still. And I knew I needed to let it out, but I was kind of terrified. And so, I had this deep-seated fear that if I did anything from a place of anger, it would only have a negative result. It would only be harmful. So I remember it was 15 degrees below zero. The monastery was nestled up against the Swiss Alps, and I went out with some candles and incense and this determination to find a way to express this. And so I made this little circle of safety, and I offered up my prayers. May this be for the benefit of all beings. And I lit the incense, and I threw some rocks, and I said some swear words. And to my amazement, I wasn't swallowed up by the earth. I was far away. Nobody heard me. I wasn't breaking any property. I wasn't hurting myself. And also, this process of learning to discharge stored up anger or allow it to flow through has been a process that has continued with me with different practices. A machete in a coconut, or punching water, or rolling the windows up and screaming while you're in the car, getting things that are broken, going to the recycling center with your glass and smashing all the glass in the glass bin, throwing it in so that it smashes. And what I heard just yesterday from one of our groups was the idea of, like as a 6-month-old having a tantrum, but get on the bed and kick your legs and your hands so that you have this feeling of allowing yourself as if you were an infant to really have a tantrum. So when we are moving past the catharsis realm so that we can then be present with the energy of anger without having to either suppress it or just dump it, then with the communication, what we're looking for is to be able to understand the need underneath the anger. What need is not getting met? And when we focus on the need, it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to express that without engaging anger. It might be appropriate to say I was angry about this, or I am angry about this, but to say I'm angry about this is different than dumping one's anger on another person about it. So conflict arises when people are together. And as humans, it's helpful to figure out how to deal with it. And part of the way that we can figure out how to deal with it is first by exploring, how do we feel about conflict? What's our relationship about conflict? Do we enjoy it? Are we excited by it? Do we want to fix it? Do we hide from it? Do we try to avoid it? Do we try to placate and please everybody so that it can disappear? And without any judgment about what our style is, it'll give us information about what our learning is. And what's also helpful is just to understand what your role is in any particular context. So a participant has a different role than a facilitator or a teacher. And so these all then line up with the ethical agreements that we start with in our groups and the context of what we're doing to help us discern whether the conflict is actually something that we need to engage in or not. If it's not something that we need to engage in, we can just pause the conversation, appreciate the importance of what's being shared, and redirect to what is the topic that we're talking about. If it does involve us, then it's curious how we engage it. If it somehow involves what we're doing in the group, then it is wise to watch one's own activation as one engages, and to watch the desire that arises to make the conflict go away, and to move into the clarity of what your role is and what is the purpose of the group, to figure out what's the next step available to resolve this conflict. So obviously with all things that are general, it's going to miss the nuances of the specific. But I hope that helps for now. I want to end with another story, which is that something happened which was actually had quite devastating results. And I was enraged. And it was just before I was going on a retreat. And one of my sisters came to me and she said, "How can I support you?" And I said, "Don't let anybody come talk to me. I do not want to know what's going on. Just let me be." She says, yes, you got it. I can support you with that. And I'd wake up in the morning and I was enraged, red hot rage. And I'd get up and I'd sit with rage. And I'd do walking meditation with rage. I didn't discharge, I didn't hit things, I didn't punch things, I didn't write, I didn't scream. I just was present with the rage in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and the first thing when I woke up in the morning again. And it was like that for like 10 days. And eventually it cooled and I settled. And I understood why I was so upset and why this had such a big impact on me. And I didn't have any more need to cathartic or to discharge about it afterwards. So the third option, being present with it without suppressing it, without discharging it onto somebody in a way that causes them harm, is a real option that we can experience and know the freedom that that brings. It was awesome. So that's it for now, friends.